Early in the morning, a golden light pierces the misty dawn. Joshua and all the Israelites set out from Shittim and journeyed to the Jordan River. Here, at the very edge of the Promised Land, they camped, waiting for the word of the Lord before crossing over. For 40 years, their parents had wandered in the wilderness, but now, a new generation stood poised to inherit God's promise. The air was thick with anticipation, a mix of hope and nervous energy. This wasn't just another river. It was the final barrier between their past and their future. After 3 days of waiting, the officers went throughout the sprawling camp, their voices carrying a divine command. They announced to the people, "When you see the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord your God, the Levitical priests carrying it, you are to move out from your positions and follow it." This was a new path, a journey into the unknown. The Ark, the very symbol of God's presence, would be their guide. It would lead them where they had never been before. But there was a crucial instruction. Keep a distance of about 2,000 cubits between you and the Ark. Do not go near it. This sacred distance was a reminder of God's holiness and the reverence required to follow Him. It taught the people to trust, not in their own sight, but in the leadership of God Himself. Then, Joshua stood before the vast sea of Israelites, his voice ringing with authority under the blazing sky. He declared, "Consecrate yourselves, for tomorrow the Lord will do amazing things among you." To consecrate means to set oneself apart for God's purposes. It was a call to spiritual preparation. To purify their hearts and focus their minds on the divine miracle that was about to unfold, they were not just to be passive observers, but active participants in God's mighty work. This moment of consecration would ready them to witness a display of power that would be told for generations. The next morning, a profound silence fell over the multitude. In a moment of high drama, Joshua commanded the priests, "Take up the Ark of the Covenant and pass on ahead of the people." With solemn reverence, they lifted the sacred ark onto their shoulders and began to walk. The entire nation watched as the symbol of God's presence moved to the forefront, leading the way. Their obedience was a powerful act of faith, stepping out before any sign of a miracle had yet appeared. As the priests advanced, God spoke directly to Joshua, His voice like a wind stirring the sands. "Today I will begin to exalt you in the eyes of all Israel, so they may know that I am with you as I was with Moses." This was God's public affirmation of Joshua's leadership. The miracle that was about to happen would not only part the waters, but also solidify the people's trust in their new leader, proving that the same God who was with Moses was now with Joshua. God then gave the final instruction for the priests. "When you reach the edge of the Jordan's waters, go and stand in the river." With the ark now glowing faintly behind him, Joshua addressed the Israelites one last time. "Come here," he called, "and listen to the words of the Lord your God. This is how you will know that the living God is among you, and that He will certainly drive out before you the Canaanites, Hittites, Hivites, Perizzites, Girgashites, Amorites, and Jebusites." This miracle would be undeniable proof of God's presence and His power to secure their victory in the land He had promised. He then instructed them, "Now then, choose 12 men from the tribes of Israel, one from each tribe. These men would have a special role to play in commemorating the event that was about to happen." And then, the moment arrived. The Jordan River was at flood stage, a roaring, impassable torrent. But as the priests carrying the ark reached the water's edge, their feet touched the swirling current. In an instant, the impossible happened. The waters flowing from upstream were cut off. They stood up in a heap, a towering wall of water glistening under the sun, while the downstream flow continued on to the Dead Sea. A path of dry ground appeared where a raging river had just been. With awe in their eyes, the Israelites began their crossing. The priests who carried the Ark of the Covenant stood firm on dry ground in the very middle of the Jordan. They remained there, a steadfast beacon of God's power, while the entire nation, men, women, and children passed by on the dry riverbed. So imagine the wonder, the feeling of the solid ground beneath their feet, where a mighty river once flowed. It was a miracle etched into the memory of every person who crossed. As the golden sun began to set, the last of the Israelites stepped onto the shores of the Promised Land. The priests, still holding the ark, stood firm in the riverbed, the waters held back in majestic silence. The people had crossed over opposite Jericho. On that day, the Lord did amazing things among them, turning an impossible barrier into a triumphant pathway, proving once again that with God, nothing is impossible. If this story of faith and miracles inspires you, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more incredible stories from the Bible. Thank you for watching.